Lex is now the new priest of the Wythenshawe team ministry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And having been a member of the church here at St James and Emmanuel, and then the youth worker, and then supported through the ordination process, we haven't lost that link with you, have we? So tell everybody why the link is maintained.
One of the first things that I did when I moved to Wythenshawe was sort of evaluated, what do we need? One of my mission is to bring sort of William Temple into sort of the 21st century a bit, make it a little bit more contemporary, sort of more accessible worship. And as part of that, we needed just some basic gear, some sound system, some equipment, which you very, very generously sponsored for us, and we use it all the time. And it means that we are able to offer a different kind of worship now in terms of sung worship. It means I'm able to play my guitar on a Sunday morning, which also makes it a lot more accessible for young families and people that are just walking off the streets. And one of the things that I never really appreciated is Wythenshawe is such a unique place. And things like accessibility in terms of just being able to read and such is a bit of a challenge for us over there. So for people to pick up a hymn book and to have to try and find the numbers and things like that, it's actually a real struggle. Something that we might take for granted in other churches. But sort of with this sound system, it means that we've been able to, I sort of have been printing off music, which people have found so much more easier to follow, which has been really lovely because it just means that then people are confident and they can sing and you can hear the singing now in church, which is amazing. And I'm hoping that, I've got a TV on order because having spoken to the congregation and talking about helping them to access worship, actually to see something on a screen is far easier for people to read.
If you've got no previous church background, walking into a church building cold off the street is going to be a very high bar, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So imagine how much higher that might feel to somebody who perhaps is thinking, well, I'm not going to know where I am in the book.
Absolutely.
Or anything like that.
There are people that have been part of our congregation for 5-6 years that still don't know when to stand up and when to sit and things like that. And
those are unnecessary barriers though, aren't they?
I think so, yeah. And I think actually the job that I have now is to make William Temple reflect the parish that we're in. And so that anyone from the congregation can walk in and can recognise and feel comfortable and feel welcome, which is one of my big missions.
That's fantastic, Lex. I mean, just for the benefit of those who perhaps don't know the context of Wythenshawe, my understanding is it the largest council-built estate in Europe or something?
Something like that. It's the most deprived borough in the whole of the UK.
Right.
So we're currently actually working on a project called the Big Feed, which is a group of churches, all different denominations, different theologies, but we've all got a passion for food and for hunger and for specifically food poverty. And we found out that in a population of 97,000 people in Wythenshawe, 58,000 of those people live off universal credit.
Wow, that's extraordinary.
It's a ridiculous
97,000 people live in Wythenshawe.
Yeah, it's big, isn't it?
So it's like a kind of...
It's like a whole metropolis.
It's like a whole town.
Yeah.
Like a proper big town, all of its own.
We've got the hospital there, we've got the airport there.
Yeah, there's some big, important things in Wythenshawe, aren't there? I guess quite a lot of people must work at the hospital.
Yeah.
Quite a lot of people must work at the airport.
Yeah, definitely.
I've seen a huge poster thing with people on.
Yeah,
that's to do with the food poverty.
It is, yeah. So that's to do with Big Feed. So we have got 58,000 little figures printed out on these big banners, and we have sent around to various different community groups. So schools, our various churches, other community groups. We're getting people to fill them in because we really want to give an identity to each one of these people. So it's not just a figure, it's not just a number, that we can actually see it. And all of this is going to accumulate on the 2nd of August, which I'm very excited about. We're having this big sort of celebration / lament / sort of visual kind of reflection of these banners that will have been decorated by then. They're going to be displayed throughout the grounds of William Temple, and we're hoping it's going to be quite a spectacle.
But it's a great way of drawing attention to the reality of people's lives.
And this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to create some conversation. We're trying to create some noise. And actually, ultimately, our goal is to create some attention, to call on the government to raise universal credit in line with the cost of living crisis. Because my parishioners, a lot of them rely on universal credit, and a lot of them are also on disability benefit, and they're being left about £35 short a week.
Right.
Which, that's a whole food shop.
Yeah.
For a family of 4.
Which brings us round to one of the other things that the Wythenshawe team are involved in, and that's the food bank, isn't it?
Yeah, we do loads of food poverty stuff. So we do a lot of feeding people. Throughout the holidays, we try and match the sort of what the kids will miss out on at school. We try and fill that gap.
So in a way, William Temple and the Wythenshawe team are trying to give a voice to people who actually are struggling. So actually one of the things that William Temple does, apart from being a place where people can gather and be supported, is actually a prophetic voice, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
And this 58,000 figure and bringing that to sort of national attention is really quite an important thing.
Absolutely, and we've got such a passion for hopefully giving a voice to those who aren't necessarily in a privileged position to be able to speak for themselves.
It's really weird, reflecting on what you're just saying, when I think about the life of Jesus and you see like a story like the feeding of the 5,000, it's like Jesus was the first food bank. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and also it's clear that he cares about food poverty.
Absolutely, 100%.
So he had the 5,000, you've got the 58,000.
I know.
Which just goes to show the scale of the job, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And do you know what? Reading throughout the Bible, the first thing that Jesus does in any encounter, he makes sure that people are fed.
Yeah.
Before any sort of big...
Or they feed him.
Or they feed him.
Yeah.
But it's always revolved around food, doesn't it? Food
is
such a... We need it to live. We need it to survive. It's a very inclusive thing. In terms of everybody needs that sustenance. And, you know, it's...
Table fellowship.
Yeah, absolutely.
Seems to be the place where God does things.
100%.
So dealing with food poverty is a deeply spiritual thing, right?
Very much so.
But it's also interesting and fascinating now that you're a priest, that, you know, that enables you to open the communion table, which is another way of feeding, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. And actually, I had my first communion service on Sunday, and it was a beautiful service. It was completely jam-packed. We had a baptism with a baptism family. We gave one of our little ones, Florence, it was her first communion. She was absolutely adamant to wait until I was priested so I could give it to her. And it was also my first time presiding at the table. And do you know what? Just standing there behind the altar thinking, my job right now is to welcome everybody, not to just sort of no barriers.
So Lex the priest is inviting everyone to the communion table.
Absolutely.
And everybody to take note of the 58,000 who are in food poverty in Wythenshawe.
Absolutely.
You know, even in a year, you'll have had things that are like high points.
Yeah, definitely.
And you'll have also had those days where you're like, why did I do this?
Yeah, very much so, definitely.
So can you give us an example of one of those, a high point and a low point?
What has been a challenge is very much, I've been sent to William Temple specifically in terms of the worship. And Sunday morning, I've, as I said before, trying to bring it into sort of the 21st century a bit more, trying to make it a bit more contemporary, a bit more accessible for people. I mean, we've got 4 churches in our team.
Yeah.
And actually, one of the things that I love about St James and Emmanuel is that we've got 2 churches, multiple services, and they all offer different styles of worship. So it's very much something I've taken from here and tried to adopt over in Wythenshawe, because there's no point having 4 churches with the same 4 styles of worship and service. It's difficult to take people with you on that, especially I'm so conscious we have lost a few members of our congregation who have struggled with that kind of change. But What is wonderful though is that they have been able to stay as part of the Wythenshawe team, and they're able to now worship at a different church, but they're still part of the team.
Yeah.
So although it's been a loss, it hasn't really been, because we've also been able to offer something just somewhere else.
Yeah.
But so that's been hard.
So Lex, what can we pray for you and Hands Across the Mersey partnership and Wythenshawe?
Yeah, definitely. I think for those of you who don't know about William Temple, it's notorious for being cold.
It is beautiful though.
It's a beautiful building, and if you haven't come to visit, please come and visit. We would love to welcome anybody and everybody. Nick, anytime you're free, please come.
And actually also we have really wanted to extend the opportunity for people who see themselves as part of the St James and Emmanuel community to also worship at William Temple, either occasionally or to relocate and be part of the team.
Everybody is so welcome, and actually I need more people.
So perhaps that's a prayer point.
Maybe that's a prayer point. Maybe, do you know what I could really do with a worship leader?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't have the funds to pay anybody.
Yeah.
But it'd be great, because at the moment I'm leading worship, preaching, presiding.
You're doing it all.
Doing everything.
Like a one-man band.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll pray for people and worship leader.
Yeah.
Anything else?
We need a miracle to happen to fix this heating. I feel like I'm at a bit of a crossroads now.
Is it money?
Money. It's going to cost over £100,000 to fix the heating. It's.
Why is the boiler so expensive?
Well, it's broken. We have zero heating at William Temple. We literally wrap ourselves in blankets over the winter. We need a miracle, really. So much. It's not safe for us. And it also means that we kind of, I feel like I've done as much as I can missionally in terms of, it's great. I'd love to do a parent-toddler group. But at the moment, in good conscience, I can't invite people to church.
Knowing it's going to be freezing cold in the winter. That's a big thing for prayer.
It's a huge thing for prayer. If we can get the heating fixed, we could then look at things like having proper, nice kitchen facilities, so we can host people. We're about to plant a veg garden in the grounds of William Temple.
So you want like William Temple to be a hub, that can be used all the time.
I want it to be church on a Sunday and a community hub during the rest of the week, and it gives people something to do as well and experience. And hopefully we can help people to maybe find jobs and build their confidence and things like that as well as feeding people.
So you need big prayers.
We need big prayers.
Well, listen, Lex, it's been amazing to talk to you. And long may Hands Across the Mersey last.
Absolutely, sure. Hands across the Mersey.
And hands across these chairs.